Literature always plays a very important role in developing a national identity. और आज इसी लेसन पे हम लोग बात करेंगे इंडिया थ्रू द लेंस ऑफ लिटरेचर. Hi everyone, this is Dr. Anamta Rizvi, a UPSC English Literature educator. And today the topic is very interesting, informative and full of learning. So ये सब students के लिए है जो कि GS पेपर के लिए prepare कर रहे हैं या English Literature optional के लिए prepare कर रहे हैं या कोई भी और exam के लिए which talks about literature through how India is perceived in literature. ये और इसलिए भी important है because you will get to know a lot of writers who have talked about India. So let's not waste any time and talk about the idea of India through literature. So the idea of India is the living conscience. So understand one thing कि हम लोग कभी भी जब भी किसी country के बारे में बात करते हैं then we always perceive it just not from the perspective of कि वहाँ का culture क्या है, वहाँ का like national symbols जो होते हैं वो क्या है, but also stories कैसी बताई जाती हैं, literature किस तरह से लिखा जाता है, what is the style of writing, what is the method of writing, especially considering India a land जिसमें इतनी languages हैं, multiple languages, it's a pluralistic land in terms of language, culture and everything. So literature again plays an important role. So the idea of India is a living consciousness shaped by its stories and voices. And over here, that's where literature plays a very important role. Literature mirrors India's diversity, contradictions, and its always evolving identity. So do we think a country की identity एक stagnant होती है? Symbols stagnant होते हैं. For instance, we have a national flower, national animal, but the identity is always evolving. What the identity of India was 10 years back, it's not the same today. And this is where literature shapes it. So from epics to contemporary fiction, writers define what it means to be an Indian and what it means to live in India. Modern Indian English novels question caste, gender identity, and democracy. Through them, we perceive how India imagines, debates, and redefines itself. Okay, so this becomes a very important moot point. Now, political and social commentary में अगर देखा जाए तो सबसे पहले अगर कोई भी political angle पे बात होती है, अरुंधति रॉय is one of the most important writers, and from UPSC perspective also, even if you have English literature as your option subject या नहीं है, this is one writer that you must know, okay, because of political angles, because of the prizes that she has won. She has won very globally recognized prizes, and for that you must know Arundhati Roy. So the Ministry of Utmost Happiness 2017 का work है, it interviews the lives of many characters who are at the periphery of Indian society. चाहे वो आपके eunuchs हो गए, Dalits हो गए, और any from fragmented regions जो आपके stories होती हैं उनको लाती हैं, and that is how Minister of Utmost Happiness Arundhati Roy has evolved this a very beautiful story. Exposes the brutality of state power, religious intolerance, social hypocrisy, and so on. So literature, as much as it tells the stories, it also questions the system, the authority, the government. And this is the reason that pen कहते हैं ना, pen is mightier than sword. So this is where literature becomes very important. We also have Annie Zaidi, Prelude to a Riot. It's a set in a small South Indian state, and it talks about many characters again. So again, we can see that there are many writers who are emphasizing upon these political issues. So अगर हम political angle से बात करें, so of course Arundhati Roy and Annie Zaidi become two very important novelists. Gender identity and feminism. Meena Kandasamy, a very known Dalit writer, इनके बहुत सारी poems हैं. She's quite young also, and इनकी बहुत poetry, बहुत novels. It just became very popular, over a period of time. इनका जो एक fan following है, जो readers हैं, and of course a canon, the Dalit canon में इनकी बहुत ही strong voice है. So semi-autobiographical story of a woman, When I Hit You. This was in 2017, and this is all about a Dalit woman trapped in an abusive marriage. So she has talked not only from the perspective of a feminist point of view, but also a Dalit point of view. So explore the silencing of female creativity, politics of control, and all. Avni Doshi, Burnt Sugar 2020 का अलग एक और work है feminism का, centers on a strained mother-daughter relationship in Pune. There are themes of memory, resentment, guilt, challenge, traditional motherhood. So ये सारे जो terms हैं ना, when we talk about motherhood, feminism, and abusive marriages. These are all issues जो कि सिर्फ इंडिया में नहीं होते हैं. It is globally across boundaries. It happens across the borders, wherein women feel trapped in a certain situation. लेकिन why does it become different is because of the context in which they are written. किस context में लिखा जा रहा है? What are the concerns, issues, challenges that women in India face? So this is how it kind of caters to an Indian identity. We are able to relate to it. Okay, so this becomes important. Partition and memory. So now we all know that partition will always be a part of India, and if its identity, when we talk about India's history, एक बहुत ही strong event that is partition 947 will always be remembered. So partition एक पूरा literature एक अलग ही genre है. चाहे वो आपका आइस कैंडी मैन हो गया बाय बापसी सिद्धवा, और यू हैव योर खुशवंत सिंह ट्रेन टू पाकिस्तान, and so many other regional writers who've written about it. So if we talk about it, Khushwant Singh ka Train to Pakistan is a must read. A beautiful novel weaved into a love story, and it talks about very, it's a village story, and it talks about sacrifice of life in love. Okay, so depicts the 947 partition through an intimate village setting, humanizes history by showing how ordinary lives collapse under political madness. Geetanjali Shri ka Tomb of Sand, and this again, this was translated by Daisy Rockwell, won a prize also. So a widow's journey across borders after partition becomes a metaphor for rebirth. So these are the stories that actually talk about partition. With partition literature, I would encourage my students to read as much as you can, because don't think that this subject purana ho gaya. As UPSC students, everything about literature you must know, especially the canonical Indian English writers. खुशवंत सिंह canonical हैं, और चाहे प्रेमचंद होंगे, उनकी बहुत कहानियां, सादत हसन मंटो की बहुत कहानियां हैं. So all these writers you definitely must have an idea about when I'm talking about partition and memory. Urban Indian globalization. Arvind Adiga, the White Tiger, I'm sure everybody must have heard about it. Booker Prize winner, did great, excellent work with his book, and the name of India came across, it just got great recognition across borders. So narrated by a village driver who murders his employer to rise in class. So it is about, you can imagine somebody जो कि बिल्कुल एक अंडरडॉग थे, उनको रिकग्नाइज ही नहीं किया था ड्राइवर को, वो किस तरह से ही रीचेस टू द टॉप पोजीशन, टू द एलीटिस्ट ऑफ द एलीटिस्ट इन इंडिया, उसके बारे में कहानी है. जीत थायल की नार्कोपोलिस सेट इन बॉम्बे's ओपियम डेंस फ्रॉम 1970s to the 2000s. तो ये अर्बन सेटिंग की कहानियां हो गई हैं, एंड दे ऑल रिवील अ सर्टेन आइडेंटिटी अबाउट इंडिया. Then you have historical and mythological reimagination. Chitra Banerjee Divakaruni, one of my most favorite writers. इन्हीं ने Forest of Enchantment लिखा है, Palace of Illusions लिखा है. She has written mythology in the most profound manner. If you are interested कि इसके बारे में पढ़ना, and of course mythology again हमारे culture का बहुत important part है. You cannot not read this work. आपको पता होना चाहिए from every aspect, because when it comes to general studies, of course, it helps you in developing a good understanding of India, Indian identity. And secondly, anything can be asked in the interview, especially when it comes to, your GS paper. It holds great benefits. So, Chitra Banerjee Divakaruni ka agar chahe aapka The Forest of Enchantment, if you talk about, it is Sitayan. It is written from the perspective of Sita. This is Ramayana from the perspective of Ram. This is from the perspective of Sita. So it's a beautiful story. Similarly, Palace of Illusions, written from the perspective of Draupadi. Okay, so these are things that you must know. Feminist angle में देख सकते हैं इसको, of course, but mythology being rewritten is one very important focal element of these novels. Amitav Ghosh Gun Island combines folklore, climate change and migration in a global narrative. Amitav Ghosh का नाम बहुत सुर्खियों में था, because उनको बहुत ही अभी लोग नोबेल प्राइज के लिए बोल रहे थे, लेकिन of course he unfortunately did not win, but a writer with great profundity. So अमिताभ घोष का नाम नहीं सुना है, so please Google him out, learn about him. चाहे आप literature student हो या ना हो, you must know about it if you are preparing for UPSC. Caste inequality and marginality, this is something that's very important for our Indian literature, Indian identity, because this is something that is there in the society. So Perimuller Murugan ka one part woman, a couple's infertility becomes a social stigma within caste hierarchy. And of course, I'm sure everybody must have heard about Om Prakash Valmiki ka Jhutan. Nahi pada hai, so please guys go ahead, Google these works, very famous works, a part of canon. All these works are, and they hold great importance in your developing an identity of India through literature. Okay, so these were something that are important. And also if we talk about diasporic literature, diaspora hota hai jo writers, Indian origin ke writers, they are settled abroad and they are writing from there. So Jhumpa Lahiri ho gayi, Kiran Desai ho gayi. So Jhumpa Lahiri ka The Namesake, it's a beautiful movie also, but Namesake is about how a young boy wants to change his name because को अपना नाम नहीं पसंद है, लेकिन बाद में throughout the book the boy figures out कि किस तरह से जो नाम होता है, it's just not a name but it holds the culture, your identity, your own motherland. Okay, so these are the aspects that are there in the work. Follows an Indian family's life in America through the son Gogol Ganguly. Amitav Kumar ka Immigrant Montana, a metafictional narrative of an Indian man in the US. Jhumpa Lahiri hai, Kiran Desai hai, Amitav Kumar hai. There are many writers who are diasporic literature. If you are willing to read about these literature, guys, मैंने headings दे के रखी हैं. Dig deep, dig more into it. And understand that, if you really want to know about your land, about your country, it's important, of course, to read the historical facts, geographical facts, but also understand India through the perspective of other known canonical Indian English writers. Okay, so ये बहुत important है. Identity को समझने के लिए India के, you must know what is the literature talking about. Because ultimately, जो लिटरेचर यहाँ प्रोड्यूस हो रहा है, that is the perception that is being developed especially by the West. English language में हम लोग लिख रहे हैं, that being the global language, how it is being perceived by people across the world. Okay, so you must know about that. Ecology and environment के बारे में बात करें, again Amitav Ghosh's name reflects a lot. The Great Derangement argues that literature must confront climate change. Amitav Ghosh has talked a lot about climate change in many of his work. Kiran Desai, The Inheritance of Law, set in the Himalayas during the Gorkha insurgency, juxtaposes globalization promises with post-colonial despair. So Amitav Ghosh, Kiran Desai, these are again important names to consider. Experimental and post-modern voices. If we talk about the post-modern novels, guys, 1981 में जब सलमान रुश्दी का Midnight Children आया था, that was the point जब इंडिया में Indian English writers के जो the entire genre change, the novel genre change and postmodern का एक wave आया था. तो जितनी भी 1981 के बाद works है, be it Alan Seeley का work, be it you name it, and any of the work that was being written in the postmodern tone. Okay, so postmodernism, Salman Rushdie ka Midnight Children, I keep on repeating this almost in every second lecture. Okay, this book is one of the most important books. Not only it won the Booker Prize, it also won the Booker of Booker Prizes. So this is a must read. इसमें बड़ा मजा भी आएगा पढ़ने में क्योंकि बहुत allegorical है. इसमें आपके जितने भी political climate बहुत ही it's had the entire canvas has been stretched in a very in-depth manner. Okay, so it's very interesting. 1947 से लेकर early 1980s तक. Tanuj Solanki ka The Machine is Learning 2020 explores AI, data ethics and morality in a corporate world. So very today's generation. Emerging New Voices, Parni Shop, The Bandit Queens, 2023 का work है, Janice Barrett, Everything the Light Touches. So mostly जितने भी new voices, emerging voices है, have a look at them. And especially I would say that though ये criteria एक important है कि जो भी emerging voices हैं, they are either being recognized through prizes, through awards, through recognition or mentioning in your reviews जिनके होते हैं. So have a look, keep a look out for all those works जिनको जो सुर्खियों में हैं, जिनके बारे में बात हो रही है, which are worth developing discourses, because आज के time में, as we all know, the literature reading has decreased because of the level of information that we already have online. But nothing replaces reading if you're preparing for UPSC. Okay, so I would suggest to all my students, start preparing with this subject in the most profound manner and understand India through the lens of literature. On this note guys, November 18th November को मेरा brand new batch शुरू हो रहा है. So all the students, English literature students, are preparing for UPSC. Join the classes, get started with the best of the lessons, best of the classes that we would be offering with a lot of notes, lot of knowledge and answer writing practices. Okay, so remember the batch is starting on 18th November. You still have time. Whatever मेरी बहुत demo classes available हैं, my YouTube lectures are available, my demo classes are available on the website. Go ahead, explore them and ask us, give us a call, ask us anything you want. हम लोग एक साथ में एक form भी attach करते हैं so that if you need anything, you guys can just fill in the form, enter your query and we will contact you. So guys, the course is for ₹14,999. My code is ARLive. Go ahead and be a part of the classes. I hope to see you all there. Thank you, everyone.